Welcome back to Tell Me More Stories Told as Podcast. We're going on a deep dive today into something you probably use all the time, but probably haven't given too much thought to. The screwdriver.
It might seem like a pretty simple tool,
Yeah,
but it's got a surprisingly rich history and a world of variations most people probably aren't even aware of.
exactly. We're going to uncover some hidden gems about this very humble tool, from its medieval origins all the way to the high-tech innovations shaping its future.
Like, did you know that the very earliest documented screwdrivers were used way back in the late Middle Ages? We're talking knights, possibly using them to tighten their armor. Really puts things into perspective.
It really does. I mean, it's amazing to think this seemingly simple tool has been around for centuries,
Yeah.
evolving right alongside human ingenuity. And speaking of evolution, the story of the screwdriver, it's really closely tied to the development of the screw itself.
Oh, absolutely. Early screws were really hard to make, incredibly expensive, which really limited their use. It wasn't until the Industrial Revolution, thanks to folks like the Wyatt brothers, that screw manufacturing became more efficient, a lot more affordable.
So the Wyatts were the game changers. They figured out how to mass-produce screws, which in turn led to the development of more diverse and more refined screwdrivers.
Exactly. Imagine a world without readily available screws. I mean, the impact on everything, from construction to manufacturing, would have been immense.
It's like a ripple effect through history, all thanks to the humble screw and its trusty companion, the screwdriver. Yeah, but for something seemingly so basic, there's a surprising amount of variation in screw types. Take the Robertson screw, for example.
The Robertson, a Canadian invention, with a brilliant design, square-shaped socket, made it really efficient and a lot less prone to slipping. Henry Ford was so impressed with how well it worked. He adopted it for his Model T production lines. I mean, this highlights how a seemingly small choice of screw type can have a huge impact on manufacturing, even on a massive scale, like automobile production.
Wow, Henry Ford himself was a fan.
Yeah.
He said the Robertson screw, it struggled to gain widespread adoption in the U.S. Why is that? If it was so good, you'd think it would have taken off everywhere.
You'd think so, right? But Robertson, he was really protective of his patents, and he just wasn't willing to give up control, which really limited the screw's reach in the American market. It's a classic example of how brilliant design doesn't always guarantee widespread adoption.
It's fascinating. It's like a business lesson hidden within the history of screws. But hey, if you're ever in Canada, keep an eye out. For those Robertson screws, they're still a testament to Canadian innovation.
You got it. It's a little piece of screwdriver history, still alive and well. But while the Robertson was making waves in Canada, another crosshead design was about to take the world by storm. The Phillips screw.
The Phillips screw. The one we all know.
Yeah.
And sometimes love to hate, right? Especially when they cam out. I always thought that was an intentional design feature.
Yeah.
To prevent over-tightening.
You know, that's actually a pretty common misconception. If you look at the original patents, there's no mention of this cam-out feature. It was actually more of a consequence of the design than an intentional feature, but later refinements did incorporate it to prevent damage to the screw head or the material being fastened.
So it was more of a happy accident. That turned into a feature.
You could say that, yeah. But regardless of its origins, the Phillips screw quickly became the dominant screw type globally, its ability to be driven with conventional slotted screwdrivers. Initially, gave it a major advantage when it's first introduced.
Clever. Now, speaking of crosshead screws, I've also encountered Pozidriv and JIS screws. They look really similar to Phillips, but I've heard they're not exactly the same.
You're right, they might look similar at first glance, but there are some subtle but important differences. Pozidriv, for example, was designed to handle even higher torque levels than a Phillips.
So if I'm working on a project that needs some serious tightening power, Pozidriv is the way to go.
Exactly. And then there's JIS, the Japanese Industrial Standard, which is incredibly common in Asian markets, has a tighter fit than a Phillips. And using the wrong screwdriver can lead to damaged screws or just frustrating projects. It's a reminder that sometimes the seemingly small differences in tools can make a big impact on the outcome of a project.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, they just grab any old Phillips screwdriver without realizing there are the subtle but important variations. It's a great example of how paying attention to those details can really make a big difference.
Couldn't agree more. Choosing the right tool for the job is crucial, even when it comes to something as seemingly simple as a screwdriver.
Before we move on to the more specialized types of screwdrivers, I want to remind everyone, hit that subscribe button. to not miss any other fantastic deep dives we've got planned here on Tell Me More. We've got so much more to explore in the world of screwdrivers, from the bizarre to the brilliant.
That's right. We'll uncover even more about the history, the variety, and the future of this essential tool. Stay tuned. So you ready to dive into some of the more unusual screwdrivers?
I am. I've definitely come across some pretty strange screws, especially trying to open up old electronics. You know those ones with the star-shaped heads, the triangular ones?
Yeah, those are specialized screw types, often used to make it more difficult for the average person to disassemble a product.
So it's about controlling access to the inner workings. Makes sense, especially for electronics manufacturers. I mean,
Exactly. Take the Torx screw, for instance. It's pretty easy to spot. With its six-pointed, star-shaped recess it's known for, excellent grip, and it's highly resistant to camming out. You'll find Torx screws in all sorts of things, from cars and bicycles to electronics, even appliances. It's become a real go-to for manufacturers who want a reliable and tamper-resistant, fascinating solution.
so the design of a screw can actually influence how easy it is to repair or modify a product. I mean, it makes you wonder about the balance between manufacturer control and consumer access, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It raises some interesting questions about those right-to-repair movements and how design choices can actually impact consumer freedom. But from a purely technical standpoint, specialized screws, like the Torx, offer some pretty significant advantages in terms of manufacturing efficiency and product reliability.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's all about context, right? Sometimes a specialized screw, it's there for legitimate reasons, but other times it might feel like
a deliberate attempt to make repairs more difficult. Absolutely. Speaking of specialized screws, I bet you've run into those three-pointed tri-wing screws, especially in older electronics. Remember trying to open up your old game console? Those tri-wing screws were likely staring back at you.
Oh, I remember those days. Back then it felt like, and you needed to crack a secret code just to change the batteries.
Exactly. And it wasn't just batteries. Those specialized screws, often used on cartridges, memory cards, other components, to deter tampering. And make sure that only authorized personnel could access the sensitive parts.
It's like a little piece of history, reminding us of a time when electronics were more mysterious, less accessible to the average user.
It is. And while some might argue that those tamper-resistant designs are kind of unnecessary, they did help to protect intellectual property and prevent accidental damage, by well-meaning, but inexperienced tinkerers.
Right. It's all about finding the right balance, isn't it? Protecting a product's integrity while still allowing for reasonable repairs and upgrades.
Exactly. And as we move further into this digital age, it'll be interesting to see how that balance evolves. Will we see even more specialized screw types, or will the trend shift towards completely screwless designs?
Now, that's a thought-provoking question. And speaking of thought-provoking, you mentioned torque earlier. I'll admit it's not something I always think about when I'm using a screwdriver.
Well, torque is a really crucial concept in screwdriving. It refers to the rotational force you apply to a screw. And, too much or too little can cause problems. Imagine you're putting together the
For furniture.
If you over-tighten a screw, you could strip the head or even damage the wood. And on the flip side, if you under-tighten it, the joint might be weak and prone to loosening over time.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot, applying just the right amount of force.
Exactly. That's where torque screwdrivers come in. They allow you to set a specific torque limit, which ensures consistent and controlled tightening. They're essential in industries like electronics, aerospace, where over-tightening can have serious consequences. Think about electric, sensitive circuit board. One wrong turn of a screw could damage those delicate components.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like having a safety net built right into your screwdriver. But are torque screwdrivers just for professionals, or are they something that a DIY enthusiast might use as well?
Oh, torque screwdrivers, definitely becoming more common in the consumer market, especially with the rise of DIY culture. And, more people taking on more complex home projects if you're working on something that requires precise fastening, electronics, appliances, bicycles. A torque screwdriver can be a real lifesaver. Takes the guesswork out of tightening and ensures consistent results.
So it's all about control and precision.
Absolutely. And speaking of control and precision, let's talk about the real game changer in the world of screwdriving, the powered screwdriver.
Ah, yes, the trusty power drill. That doubles as a screwdriver. I mean, it's hard to imagine life without one. No more aching wrists after a long day of assembling furniture.
Exactly. Powered screwdrivers have completely revolutionized the way we work with screws. They save so much time, effort.
And reduce the risk of injuries.
And they've come a long way over the years, from those early corded drills to the cordless models we have now, with adjustable torque settings, LED lights, even magnetic screw holders.
Amazing to see how something as simple as a screwdriver has really benefited from all the technological advancements.
It is, and it's not just about convenience. Powered screwdrivers also allow for greater precision and control, especially with those features like the adjustable clutch settings and depth gauges. You can set the exact depth you want to drive a screw, preventing overdriving and damage to the material.
It's like having a mini workshop right in the palm of your hand. But with all this talk about high-tech powered screwdrivers, let's not forget about the trusty ratchet screwdriver. It's a classic. That still has its place in the toolbox.
Oh, absolutely. The ratchet screwdriver might not have the glamour of a cordless drill, but it's simple and effective and perfect for certain tasks. Its ratcheting mechanism allows you to quickly tighten or loosen screws without having to reposition your hand, which makes it ideal for repetitive tasks or working in tight spaces.
It's like the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And the ratchet screwdriver is a testament to that.
What about
Impact drivers, though? They seem to be gaining in popularity in recent years. What's your take on those?
impact drivers? They're fantastic for driving large screws or working with tough materials. They deliver a really powerful rotational force along with a series of concussive blows, which makes it much easier to drive screws in without stripping the heads. Think of it like a tiny jackhammer for screws.
Wow, a jackhammer for screws. That sounds pretty intense. But I could definitely see the appeal, especially for those heavy-duty projects.
Exactly. If you're working with thick lumber, metal, concrete, an impact driver can save you a lot of time and frustration. It's the go-to tool for construction workers, carpenters, anyone who needs serious screw driving power.
So we've got torque screwdrivers for precision, powered screwdrivers for speed and efficiency, ratchet screwdrivers for simplicity, and impact drivers for raw power. It's amazing to see the range of tools available for something as basic as turning a screw.
It really is, and it all comes back to choosing the right tool for the job, understanding the different types of screwdrivers, their strengths, their limitations. It's essential for any DIY enthusiast or professional.
Well said. So what type of screwdriver do you find yourself reaching for most often?
You know, it really depends on the task. For those everyday projects, around the house, a basic set of Phillips and flathead screwdrivers usually does the trick. But if I'm working on something more specialized, like electronics, appliances, I'll grab the Torx or the tri-wing drivers as needed.
Sounds like having a variety of options is key.
Right.
Like having the right tool for the right job, just like you said.
Exactly. And it's not just about the type of screwdriver, the handle design, the shaft length, the material it's made from. All of those things play a role in how comfortable and effective a screwdriver is to use.
That's true. I've definitely experienced the frustration of using a screwdriver with an uncomfortable handle or a shaft. It's way too short for the job.
I think we've all been there. But luckily, there are so many options available these days. You can really find a screwdriver that's perfectly suited to your needs.
And your preferences.
It's like the world of screwdrivers has evolved to cater to every possible scenario. But speaking of evolution, I'm curious about the future of screwdrivers in a world that's becoming increasingly digital. Will we even need them in a few decades? That's a good question. It's true that a lot of modern devices are moving away from screws and towards those snap fit designs or adhesives. I think screwdrivers will always have a place. I mean, there'll always be a need to physically assemble things and repair things. And for that, a good old-fashioned screwdriver will likely remain an essential tool.
Yeah, you're right. There's something satisfying about using a simple tool to solve a problem. And who knows, maybe we'll see even more innovative screwdriver designs in the future.
Absolutely. Technology is always changing. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing screwdrivers with integrated sensors, adjustable torque settings, maybe even wireless connectivity.
Wireless screwdrivers, now that's a thought. Imagine being able to control the torque, the speed of your screwdriver right from your smartphone. The possibilities are endless.
The future of screwdrivers, it's looking bright. And who knows, maybe one day we'll look back at our current screwdrivers with the same sense of wonder and amusement as we do those early medieval screwdrivers used by knights.
That's a great way To wrap things up, it's been really eye-opening, exploring the world of screwdrivers.
Yeah.
From their humble beginnings to their potential future. So listeners, the next time you reach for a screwdriver, take a moment to really appreciate its history, its ingenuity, and its enduring usefulness. And hey, maybe even do a little research, see what new, innovative screwdriver designs are out there. You might be surprised by what you find. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of screwdrivers. Until next time, keep those minds curious and those toolboxes stocked.
And always choose the right screwdriver for the job.
It's striking, isn't it? As we've been talking about, like the different types of screwdrivers and their evolution, just how much impact this seemingly simple tool has had on the world around us.
I know, right? Screwdrivers, I mean, they've been essential in the development of...
So many inventions.
And construction.
Of everything, from furniture to skyscrapers to spacecraft, has really quietly shaped the world as we know it. Yeah, think about it. Every time you use a computer, drive a car, or even just turn on a light switch, you're benefiting from that humble screwdriver. It's been there behind the scenes the whole time, helping to bring all those technologies to life.
Absolutely. And it's not just the technology itself. Screwdrivers, they've had a huge impact on society and the economy. Think about the rise of DIY culture. I mean, screwdrivers have empowered people to take on projects themselves. It's fostered a sense of self-reliance, creativity.
It's true. I can't imagine tackling any kind of home improvement project without a screwdriver right by my side. It's like a symbol of empowerment. It lets us take control of our surroundings, build things, repair things with our own two hands.
Exactly. It's that satisfaction of creating something, solving a problem, and knowing that you did it yourself. And the screwdriver has been a crucial part of that process for so many people.
It is fascinating to think about how a simple tool like this can have such a profound impact on our lives, individually and as a society.
You know, it is. But like with any tool, it's important to remember the bigger picture. While screwdrivers have definitely had a positive impact on the world, we can't ignore the environmental side of things.
Yeah, the production, the disposal, all of that.
Yeah, that's a good point. The mass production of screwdrivers, like with a lot of consumer goods, has raised concerns about sustainability and how we use resources.
For sure. We got to think about the materials, the energy it takes to make them, the waste that's generated when they're no longer usable.
So what are some ways we can think about making screwdrivers more sustainable?
Well, one way is to start using more recycled materials in their construction. Another is to design them to last longer, make them repairable so they don't break as easily. And if they do, you can fix them. And of course, we need to push for better disposal programs, recycling programs, so those old screwdrivers don't end up in landfills.
It sounds like there's actually a lot we can do to make the whole life cycle of a screwdriver more eco-friendly. There really is. And I think consumers are more aware of these issues now, and they're looking for products that are more sustainable.
I agree. People are being more mindful about the brands they support, choosing those that prioritize the environment.
This is a good sign. And as more people demand eco-friendly screwdrivers, I'm sure we'll see even more innovation, new materials, better designs, manufacturing processes that have less of an impact on the planet.
It really is exciting to think about the future of screwdrivers and what new things we might come up with from those early medieval versions to the high-tech powered screwdrivers we have today. It's been an amazing journey of innovation, and it feels like we're just getting started.
I think so too. The humble screwdriver, it's come a long way, and it still has a long way to go.
You've covered so much ground today. We've explored the history, the different types, the future of the screwdriver. But what's that? One key takeaway you'd want our listeners to walk away with?
I'd say it's important to just appreciate the impact this simple tool has had. It might seem small, but it's really shaped our world in so many ways. And it's going to keep playing an important role for a long time to come. So next time you grab a screwdriver, take a second just to think about how ingenious it is and how relevant it still is in our lives.
That's a great point. And remember, everyone, choose screwdrivers that are functional, of course, but also environmentally friendly. Look for brands that are trying to reduce their impact on our planet.
Exactly. And never forget, use the right screwdriver for the job. It makes all the difference.
Thanks for joining us today on this deep dive into the world of screwdrivers. Until next time, Keep those minds curious and keep those toolboxes stocked.